Greetings, Michael.
Hello, Carl. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
You're not the guest. I'm the guest. We're the guests. We're co-guests. We're co-hosts.
Yeah.
I tried to make this Carl and Kitces, and you said put it the other way around. So
I know, we're all it's good. I'm just joking. I thought it was a good way to start. Listen, I want to talk to you. I have some questions for you.
Okay.
About inputs, and particularly like email and name your social media platform like Twitter or whatever, like people. Well, and let's start with email. How do you handle the volume of email coming at you?
Oh man. First, just like, I don't know, by sheer volume, it is ridiculous. It has gotten ridiculous. Not even just all the newsletters and stuff, like between all the different businesses that I'm involved with, and just the number of people that reach out through this podcast, our Financial Advisor Success podcast, the blog, like it is a constant stream of questions and emails and inquiries, all of which I want to answer because I love just, sharing thoughts and trying to be helpful. It's part of how I'm wired. So like handling the email flow for me has actually evolved quite a bit over the years. I come up with some hacks to be a little more productive. It works for a while, and then the volume continues to increase and they break, and I have to do more new things. So it's been an interesting evolution for me. Stage one was trying to better manage how email comes into me. So most of us, we hand out our email address. Hey, I met you wherever it was. Let's stay in touch. Like, we hand out our email address. And the problem is, if you do that enough and your business grows enough, a lot of people have your email address and they want to ask you some questions. And this starts to create a very high volume that's a little bit problematic. So the first thing I actually did was making some additional email addresses for our platform. So for the, technical nerds, like a whole bunch of email aliases that auto forward and route around. So, someone wants to contact us through the site now. I used to just have my contact information on the site. And a lot of people found it and contacted me, and then that got a little too voluminous. So now, like, if you have a general inquiry, you email questions@kitces.com. Now that goes to someone who then figures out, where should this actually be? Some of them are for me, and so it comes straight to me, and then I respond. But sometimes it's a question about our website. It's a technical problem. It needs to go to our technology person. Sometimes they've got a question about our members section or like getting their CE reported. That goes to our CE person. And so rather than putting my email address out there, which meant all of those came to me and I had to be traffic controller.
Yeah.
Now this kind of fell in two stages. First, just let's route them to a second email address that I don't have to be the primary one to manage, right? I can give that to a team member and say, when things come into this, make sure they go immediately to where they need to go. So if it's for me, I still respond, but I don't have to route the traffic. Someone else can do that. The second stage we did was getting even more specific about those. So if you're a member and you have a question, you email members@kitces.com, which is specifically and just for people who've signed up for our members section. And it doesn't come to me because almost none of those questions are for me. It's like, I'm having trouble logging in. I've got a question about this CE quiz. Like, I'm having a problem with the webinar. Is this my computer or the internet connection? Like, those stuff that we have to do, that we have to help members that pay us for CE credit. But I didn't need to do those personally. And historically, I did all of them because when you start a business, it starts on your shoulders and carries everything. But then the business grows and evolves a bit. And so, even for advisors, like, why not have a clients@firmname.com email address, and any client who needs help can email clients@. And then someone is tasked with always continuously monitoring the clients at address, which frankly probably shouldn't be you as the advisor, because you're out seeing clients and in meetings and you're tied up for hours or sometimes a full day at a time with all that stuff. So give that email address or route that email address to someone else, and someone else can make sure that people are getting more timely responses. And lo and behold, it's not in your inbox.
Let me interrupt you and ask you about that real quick, because I think this is a really important point. And specifically, like advisors who always want to be reachable, and the belief, the totally well-intentioned belief, because none of what you've said so far has any, like, I know plenty of people who answer this question by saying, like, I become less reachable, right? And none of what you've said so far is that, right? Like, and I feel the same way.
No, I'm not less reachable. I'm not getting reached on the stuff that at the end of the day, I didn't need to handle, or I'm not actually the primary person in the business to handle anyways.
Well, yeah,
I was routing them, right? Like, it's the advisor equivalent of, if you need a transfer form, contact me and I'll put you in touch with my staff to get the form. Like, why are you routing someone to your team to get the form? Just let the client contact the team.
Yeah.
They'll get a faster response and you get fewer emails.
Yeah. I think that's the important part here, is what we're talking about is you do this because you love the people.
Yes.
Right? Like, this is in service of the people, not some ego trip on your end.
Yes.
Right? Like, and so I think that's an important part to remember, that, like, look, I'm not doing this. In fact, I've found myself saying this, like, I'm introducing you to this person to take care of this because I loved you. I actually put that in the email that I send sometimes, like, because I love you. And if I try to handle this, nothing will ever happen.
Yep.
If you want something to happen, so-and-so is going to help you. So I think if we get clear that, like, this thing in our heads, it reminds me a little bit of when I was considering selling my RIA firm. John Bowen told me, he said, Carl, one of the greatest disappointments of your life, because I was so hung up on selling. I was like, no, my clients can't ever. So it's like a similar feeling, because he was like, one of the greatest disappointments of your life is going to be when you sell your firm and no one cries. No one cries but you. And I think it's similar with email. Like, one of the greatest, like, disappointments and also, like, amazing surprises is no one's going to be upset. In fact, they're going to be grateful when either A, they've got a specific email address of the person that takes care of stuff, or B, here's a slight version on this, is it's okay to have somebody who's highly trained at traffic control in your inbox. And when they can directly reply from your inbox, and I always think it's wise, you don't have to do this, but to identify themselves. Hey, it's John here. Carl asked me to reply to this. I've CC'd myself, so you've got my direct email, right? Like, it's okay too if you don't want to necessarily split up. But the idea that somebody's going to get that email from John when they thought I was going to reply and be upset is just, like, crazy in our own heads. What they're going to do is say, oh my gosh, John, thank you. Carl's worthless, like, in terms of getting this stuff done. He's the person who gives us advice. So anyway, I just want to make sure that point gets driven home, that this is not, it's in service of the people.
Yep.
Right? It's getting them what they want.
Yep.
So keep going.
Well, I was saying, so the second thing then was, if you write enough emails, you find some of them start getting repetitive, right? Clients ask the same questions, people have the same problems, you have the same issues that crop up. Hey, it was great to see you in the meeting. Here are the things that we said we're going to do. Here are the things you said you're going to do. Really looking forward to seeing you again in 3 months. Like, 90% of it's templates. The only 10% that's different is, like, the actual action items you happen to fill in for each of the clients' meetings. And so I started creating email templates of just common stuff that gets written over and over again, either common phrases or segments of an email, or sometimes whole emails. Mac users, there's a tool called Text Expander that does this, where you just type in a short snippet and expands into an entire phrase or an entire, like, email that you can then go in and edit. I'm a Windows user on a PC, so I use a software called Phrase Express that does the same thing. And so now, like, when I need to do a follow-up on a consulting engagement, like, I just literally open the email and type consulting follow-up, and all the text of my standard consulting follow-up email appears in my email. And now I have a whole email, and I just have to edit out the few words and the few parts that are relevant for a specific person, right? You know, anything you do that repeats, like, there's just a portion that's boilerplate. No offense to anyone I've consulted with who gets the follow-up emails, that, like, yes, a portion of that is boilerplate because, you know, thank you, that was a great meeting. Like, we kind of say that every time. It's okay. It's still nice to say it every person, but you don't have to henpeck it out, particularly if you're not a fast typist. Like, you can shortcut these things and just start chopping a whole bunch of time off of how long it takes you to prepare emails.
And even that, right? Like that consulting email, the fact that you were very thoughtful and wrote it out carefully and then saved it as a template is in service of the people. Like, we don't have to feel bad at all.
Yeah, it's a better, more thorough email than me trying to remember off the top of my head, what are the things I always try to cover in these emails when I'm wrapping up, while I'm already thinking about the next thing I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm trying to wrap this up first so I can bring some closure to it.
So you use something like, do you use, I mean, because I know in Google you can use canned responses. We use
so I'm an Outlook user. And so I build it off of Phrase Express, but there's a whole bunch of different tools that just are built to do either email templates or email phrase substitutions, where you just type a few letters and it turns into the whole word, the whole phrase, the whole sentence. You know, thus the names like Text Expander, if you're on a Mac, that just expedites this process. And I think particularly for those folks who are not the fastest typists, where just the email stuff takes time because email typing takes time, it's a huge time savings.
It's I listened to somebody talk about, they actually calculated the amount of time they saved every year from Text Expander. It was nuts.
Yeah, like it gets crazy nuts really quickly. So you don't realize, like, you send 10 emails and you save like a minute or two per email. Suddenly you're saving like 10 minutes a day. There's 250 working days in a year. That's 2,500 minutes. That's 40 hours. That's a working week. So like a minute an email for a dozen emails a day is an entire work week you save at the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's just being, I read this story once. It's a guy up in upstate New York. He was a computer programmer, moved to upstate New York and started a farm. And I can't remember the name of the farm, but because he was a computer programmer, he paid attention to every single thing he did in the farm, right? Like, and he did that for like 6 months and just mapped every single action he ever took. And then he spent like 3 months figuring out, like, okay, well, if I move the shed to here, and I move, and I just walk, and he's like, it's the most, I can't remember the name of the farm. It's this super crazy productive farm. It's like a half acre or 1 acre. And he produces this crazy number. And it's just simply because, and I would watch that and I'd be like, I got to become a farmer. That's so cool. And they're like, wait, the same exact thing applies here. Like, can we just pay attention and be super intentional about our actions, map out repetitive tasks? We use a thing called Mixmax, which allows, it's a template that sits inside Gmail, and it allows, because my whole thing, especially at the behavior gap email side, and there's 38,000 people on that list, and I get hundreds of emails, and I was like, how can we do me at scale? Right. And so we'll record videos that are really specific about a specific email that goes out, and people get a response with the video. It's like there's so much value added there, and people feel like people do. They say, this is so amazing. And we even tell them, hey, we both know this was an automated response. Like, I say that. Can we pretend for a minute that it's not? Right? I put a lot of time into this. If we were sitting across the table from each other, I would reach across and grab your arm right now and look you in the eyes. You can play around with this stuff. And make it incredibly valuable. So how did you, do you have somebody in your inbox, like your personal email, or are you handling all that?
So that's the most recent shift that I've made as of, literally probably 3 or 4 months ago, is that still just as business and growth is compounded, there's still too much email that I've got to sort through, that I've got to sift through, and just like recognizing my, I don't know, my own unfortunate compulsion. Like, I like helping people. It's what I do, it's why I do what I do. And so it makes it really hard to just literally see, like, there's an email in my box of a person that wants some help. I'm like, I want to, like, I know a resource, I know a thing, I want to respond to them. And if I respond to all of them, I will obliterate entire days where nothing gets done except replying to one-off emails, which is lovely for the people that gets the response, but also means, like, I can't make an article to help the next 10,000 people because I wrote emails to help 10 of them.
Yeah.
Like the latest shift for me has been actually putting someone in my inbox just to help further manage the kind of the traffic cop stuff, and helping other people on the team answer things that at the end of the day I don't really need to be answering.
So walk us through how that actually works.
So again, I'm an Outlook user. Outlook actually has this built in. You can literally set someone as an assistant. And so, when our team member logs into her Outlook, she's got 2 Outlook boxes, hers and mine.
Oh, so we found something that Outlook does well.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Outlook does this well.
This is a bonus.
It sucks at email templates compared to Gmail, which is why I have to use Phrase Express. Right. But it's actually good at this. And so, like, when calendar invites come to me, they automatically route to her to accept or decline or make sure they're on my calendar in the right place. And she's got her email inbox open directly next to mine and can jump in to move emails around, route things in and out, just grab things that aren't really for me at the end of the day that someone else on the team could handle and send off to the handle. So like anybody who gets a response from me, it's always really me. Like, one of my strict rules is still, like, no one replies to emails in my box as me unless it's me. Like, if she's replying to it, she replies from her email address and says, I know you contacted Michael about this. Let me help you with it.
Sure. And so I wanted to get really clear. So does she go in your inbox at a certain time before you see it?
Yes, generally I try to have her hit my inbox before I hit it in the morning. Now,
and you said she, right?
Yes.
Okay. So she goes in a certain time before you do. She goes through, clears out, like, gets rid of, there's some certain things that are just junk and can be deleted. There's spam and it can go away. Yep. Then there's stuff that's clearly should be handled by somebody else in service of the people because we love the people.
Yep.
And then there's a pile of stuff that's like Michael needs to respond to. Is that left in your inbox, or is it moved to like a Michael respond folder?
No, so it is. So we basically end out with, I guess, what is it? 4 core folders. Well, I guess 5, including the inbox itself. So either she deletes it if just, it was spam, it wasn't necessary. Files it away in, just because I keep all my emails. If it's I got CC'd on a thing that just has no actual impact for me at all, right? Just, I know enough people. Sometimes I get looped into conversations I don't really need to be in. And then most of it goes into one of 3 core boxes, either newsletters to review. So like all those email newsletters, industry trade pub stuff that comes in, which I like to monitor and scan as part of how I, take in the news and information myself, but I don't want to muck up my inbox. So she puts it in a newsletters to review folder. I look at that once every day or two and just sort of mass skim all those newsletters that come in from all the different trade publications. Then there's a second box that's called FYI. So these are things that I should see, but I don't really need to respond to. Just like, you got looped in on this conversation, there's a thing to see, someone sent a response to confirm a thing, and like I need to see it to bring closure, or I should see it to be aware that it was communicated to me, but it's not urgent. I can look anytime, but I don't want to just file it away because I should see it. So we have an FYI box. Then we have what's just labeled a low priority box. It's like, you're going to want to reply to this.
That's where all my emails go.
So like you're probably going to want to reply to this, but it's not urgent and time sensitive. So, if you get back to it in the next day or few, that's going to be fine. And then the most urgent stuff stays in my inbox. And so when I look at my inbox, I see the things that I actually need to deal with and respond to in a timely manner.
Okay.
And the rest I control on my time blocks of when I go in to go through some of the low priority stuff and just respond to things that I do want to respond to and skim through my FYIs. Yeah. And then the other piece is just things that don't actually need to belong to me that can still get forwarded other places.
Yeah.
Or just things she can handle directly. Someone wants to get on my calendar. We've been working on a time. We found a time that works. She sees the time is available on my calendar. She may just go in and say, yep, that time works. I've added it to Michael's calendar. You're all set. I don't see the email. The appointment appears on my calendar. The other person got their confirmation. My mind space is cleared of not needing to worry about that thing.
Yeah. It's so shocking how simple that idea, and the rules can get refined and better over time. But you can very easily set up like really specific rules for those of us who are scared to do this. Like delete stuff that's clear. Like if you have any question, don't put it in I have a question. I did this for a couple of years with somebody. Put it in I have a question folder, and we'll review those once a week together. And I'll tell you, oh, that's a delete, and then you'll know, right? Get rid of stuff that's clear. If you have a question, put it in a folder. If you know somebody on the team, here's the 2 other people on the team. Here's what they handle.
Yep.
Right. And then what's left is over time, it's going to get more and more clearly just mine. But at least initially, even just that initial scan, because realize what happens, especially with like all those newsletters and those requests. Like when you go to the orthodontist, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you go to the orthodontist and you have the whole thing, like my orthodontist is my buddy. I rode bikes with him, and he did the whole thing, like the exam, whatever. And he showed me here's what we need to do. And then he disappeared. And I was like, wait, what happened? And then there was somebody else sitting with me who was going through a treatment plan and the price. And I was like, hey, where did Jeff go? And they're like, oh, he's gone. Because I wanted to ask Jeff, Jeff, come on, brother. Give me a little discount here. Jeff was gone. And I think the same thing happens with our time in the inbox.
Yep.
Is where we're so tempted to we're doing hard cognitive work. Oh, what's going on in the inbox? Is there a newsletter I could read? Or B, we just all want to help people. It kills me when I don't know how many book requests a week to read. It kills me to say no. So I finally recorded a video of that much pain. Oh, my friend, it kills me to say no. I want you to know how bad I can do this. But if I say yes to you, I have to say no to my cute little kids. I didn't quite
hold up a picture of your children.
I hold up one of my kids, my cute little kids. but all I'm saying is just what you described, just the basic cleaning out of the inbox. The amount of time that you will save and cognitive load is amazing. And there's no risk there. Any risk you can mitigate by saying if you have a single question, put it in the questions folder. We'll review it at the end of every day.
Yeah. I was really anxious about this and going down this road, and the advice that someone gave me, who had done the same thing, was it's just a bunch of rules. You've got all these rules in your head about what you replied to and don't, and what you look at later and what you keep and all that.
So good.
Just put the rules down on paper and then hand the rule list to someone else. And as you know, as you'll find, they'll be able to do 95% of them really easily based on the rules. And at worst, when you get to the last 5% that are uncertain, just either leave it in the inbox or put it in the I'm not certain folder. And we'll refine the rules for those over the next couple of weeks. And you're going to get to 99% in amazingly fast time. It's really just setting a bunch of rules. And I think for most of we don't even realize how much time we spend on it. Like it's just a couple seconds here and there until you get back to the like save a minute here or there, save 10 minutes a day, and it's a week of work for the year.
Totally. And I think that's, let's wrap on that point, that like you've already got all we're trying to do with all these things, because this applies to travel, it applies to calendar, it applies to like Ramit's really good at this. Ramit Sethi, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, super good at the idea of like his work with his assistants, amazing. And all it was get it out of your head onto paper. Like you've already got an algorithm that goes on every single decision you're making is running this algorithm, and can we just get the algorithm out of your head and onto a piece of paper, right? And then other people will do that work better than you could ever do it. And the crazy side benefit is you get to do more of what you're really good at, right?
Yep.
So super good. I'm glad that we had this conversation and specifically just stuck to the idea of talking about how primarily how you handle email, because that's so valuable for people. So thanks for doing this, Michael.
Well, thank you, Carl. My pleasure.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time.